Welcome to FlappyBird Lesson 1. In this lesson, we're going to do an overview of the game we'll be developing over the next couple of videos, as well as introduce a new concept from the game library, which is animations, and how to make things look animated. So let's get to it. So here's FlappyBird. Let me demo the game for you, and then I have a bit of trivia at the end to kind of share with you. So here's the game. And the idea of the game is to kind of collect these coins as you go through these pipes. And the more coins you get, the faster the pipes come at you. So I'm going to see if I can get a couple. And there is sound files associated with the game. But in this particular demo, I don't have them activated. So there it is. So hopefully you saw the pipes were coming up quicker, increasing the challenge of the game. So here's the trivia. The game was developed in 2013, and when it went popular on the App Store, it was pulling down about $50,000 a day in advertisements, which to me is just insane. Again, I'm just basing this off the information I got on the website, but that's not unheard of. That's how apps make their money. You know, in-app purchases, advertisements through the apps. And if you think about what the game is and the graphics used, it's not a lot. So if you have a great idea for a game, go with it. You just never know. So let's go to code and let's start developing our Flappy Bird. So just a quick review. It is a web-based video game. So here's our web page. Here's our canvas. Here's our game library. And here's our file that's actually going to store our game. We have some audios, we have some images. Here's the game library with all the various objects that we can use, and the script file. So as with all games, the first thing you have to do is you have to declare the resources that you're going to use. So we're going to declare a couple. We're going to declare the ones that you're going to use in this video, which is a picture for the background, and I'm going to call it day, and picture for the bird, which is an animation, as well as the bar. Okay. From here now, we go to our preload function, which happens when the document loads. And our preload, goes through and actually loads up all the pictures, preloads them into our game, so they're ready to use once we actually get to the game. We had talked about game.state kind of controls which function should be ran, and a function really equates to kind of like in this instance, a stage in the game. So from here, we go to init. And what does init do? Init's where we actually create our game objects. So I already have the day created. It's a new sprite. Again, these are things that if you had done the Zombie Thanksgiving video tutorial, you should be familiar with. So first thing we're going to do, let's just run it. We don't have anything. We don't have anything because there's nothing in the main. All right, so we got to do a couple of other things here. Now we could do this just as review. So we could do day.draw. But we notice that the picture is static, just kind of sits there. And if you saw in our game, our background moved. Now it wasn't an animation per se, like we're going to talk about next, but it did give the illusion of something happening. If we go to the game library, we'll see that the game itself has something special. Right here. We have a set background, which accepts a graphic. And once you set a background in the game, you can scroll the background. So notice the game itself is now given some additional capabilities. So we could do a set background and do day. And just as review, not really review, introducing this, if you quickly saw, there was a draw background as well. All right. So notice it doesn't give us any extra capabilities. It's simply drawing the background. But the fact that we set the background of the game to this sprite now lets us do this instead. There's a scroll background, as we saw, which accepts a direction. So we want to scroll it to the left and an amount. And we'll have to scroll down a little bit. And there you go. Something very simple, but for certain games that's needed. The ability to scroll the background is essential. Okay, so that was task number 1, how to scroll the background. The next task we have to look at the bird. So you notice that the bird is an animation, so it's a single picture. If we were to do this as a sprite, we would get all 3 pictures on the screen. That's not what we want. What we want is to be able to display each picture kind of consecutively over a period of time, so that the wing is up, the wing is neutral, the wing is down. That's called an animation. If you've ever done anything with like a flip book, we actually drew a different picture on each page and actually flipped the book. You understand what the idea of an animation is. But honestly, if you've never done a flip book, if you've gone to the movies, if you've seen anything on TV, these are images that are sent to you at real fast pace that gives you the illusion of motion. But really all you're looking at are different pictures with each picture in a slightly different position. Let's get back to the code. Let's get a little simpler. So we're going to do bird equals new. Now we're not going to do sprite. If we go to the game library and we scroll down towards the very bottom, we'll see that there is another class called animation. And while we're here, let's take a look at the constructor. So what does it want? It wants the image, the number of frames, the game variable, the width and the height, and a possible X and Y if we wanted to. So let's go back to our script. So we're going to do new animation. And what was the first thing I wanted? I wanted game.images.bird. And then the number of frames. Now what's meant by the number of frames is how many pictures do you have in here? So in this one picture, we have 3 pictures. We got 3 pictures. Then it wanted the game variable, just like the sprite wanted the game variable. And I'm actually gonna let me do it like this. Let me kick this out. Now I could take up the whole screen. But we're not done yet. If we left it like this, it would not work. So the next thing it wants is the width of each picture. Okay. So I happen to know that this picture is 132. The whole picture is 132, and there's 3 of them in there. So what we can do here, we can have the computer do a little bit of math. So if the big picture, the whole picture of bird is 132, and there's 3 of them, that means that the width of each one is 132 divided by 3. Now the height of each picture is 34. All right, so we've done that, and I think at this point we're ready to kind of just draw the bird. And you'll see how nice this is in terms of once you got past the ability to be able to kind of construct a variable that's an animation, it just gets down to the same basic thing we did with the sprite, which is draw. And that's what you're going to see a lot of, is that the way you work with an animation is the same way you work with the sprite. The only difference is that the picture is going to be animated. So let's go back to our, and there you go. There's your little bird kind of flapping in the wind. So now let's do the bar, just as practice since we have it up there. So same idea. Let's create another variable, bar equals new animation game.images.bar. Next thing it wants is how many pictures. Now I happen to know that it's 3 pictures. If you look at the bar, you're gonna be like, where do you see the 3 pictures? The 3 pictures are actually right next to each other. So again, sometimes in pictures you kind of have to know what the picture is, because you might see this as just 1 bar, but there's actually 3 bars in here. So 3 bars, game, and the whole picture is 2100, and there's 3 of them in here. So in this case, I'm going to do the math myself. So each picture has a width of 700, and the height of each picture is 110. So let's go ahead and look at that. Oops. Common mistake. You create the variable, like, wait a minute, I created the variable. Why isn't it showing? Don't forget, you have to go to the actual main loop to draw whatever it is that you're wanted to see on the screen. Let's go here. So note, there's the bar, it's animated, but it's on top of the bird. It shouldn't be there. So let's reposition the bar. And this is something you're going to see a lot of in this game. Animations and sprites have variables associated with them, such as X and a Y, health, damage. These were some of the things we saw in the previous video series, Zombie Thanksgiving. You're going to use a lot more of them. So the idea of the move to, which is how you move something to a location, is still available, but we're going to learn how to work with the animations, the sprites, through their variables in this video series. So what I want to do is I want to change the bar's Y location. And what do I want to make it? Well, I could use a hard number, knowing that the screen has a height of 512, but I'd rather do something different. So that way, in case in the future, if I want to resize my game, I don't have to go to my code and adjust it. So let's do game.height, which represents the height of the game. This is the height of the game. Now, if you recall from the previous video series, the way graphics work, this is 0, 0, and the Y is inverted. So to go down is a positive Y direction. So this positive Y down here has a value of game.height. X is the same. On this side is negative values. On this side is positive value, with this being a game.width, an X of game.width. Again, when you get used to these games, you'll be more comfortable with the positioning of things inside the screen and outside the screen. So in any case, the bar's Y, we want it to be the height of the game minus a little bit. And let's say minus 50. So part of the bar is going to be off the screen. That's okay. We didn't need that much bar on the screen. So let's take a look at it. This is where we were, and this is where we are now. And again, how many lines of code did we write? And all we did was we added a couple of sprites, a couple of animations. We scrolled the background, and we drew the bird in the bar. So hopefully you're starting to get excited that, wow, we were able to rapidly develop something, prototype something with just a few lines of code using this game library. So let's go back to our presentation. So we've introduced Flappy Birds, which was a big hit in 2013 and 14. We saw that the game library has some mechanisms for scrolling the background, and we explored a new game object called animation, which through a couple of extra arguments will allow us to actually animate an image. Enjoy.